Now we're going to create a context which will be a global state for our application. So the data that you have in the context state will be available for the entire application. So when the user logs in, we get the user and token. So that one we will put in the context. All right. So let's go ahead and create a context. So inside the client folder in the root directory, let's create a file and let's call it context. Actually, let's create a folder. Here, let's create a folder context, and inside we create a context file called auth.js. By the way, you can have more than one context. So if we need later, we can create another context as well. So we just put it inside a folder. Now, first let's import React. And we're going to use state. That's where we're going to store the user and token. So use state, use effect also we will be using later. So let me import now. So we import React, we import Axios. We also need to import async storage, because if the user and token is saved in the local storage, we want to grab that and populate the state in this context. All right, so that way if there is any data available when the screen reloads or user returns to your application, we can grab that data from there, and then so that they don't have to keep logging in each time. So that means, let me just go to one of the screens, sign in, just so that I can copy this import command. Back to context auth. Alright, so we import async storage as well. So to create a context, we need to use the use context hook. So we can import that, use context. I actually not use context, create context. Create context. And then to start using the create context, we can execute that and put in a variable. Let's call it auth context equals to create context, and this is a function we give. We just execute this function and that will give us the context. Okay, so we got the context. Now we need a provider as well. So const auth provider equals to, so here we can create a state just like in a regular React component. So const state set state equals to use state, and here in this state we want to store the user and token, right? So user, we give the default value of null, the empty object, and token will be the type of string. All right, so we got the state, and now we want to load the user and token from the local storage by default. Okay, so whenever the application is ready, so use effect, it takes a function as an argument, and second argument, the dependency, we leave it empty. So here we want to load the data from the local storage using async storage, and then we're going to put that in the state. So that way, if there is any value in the async storage, that will be populated in the state here. So let me create a function, load from async storage equals to async. So here, let me put the data that we get from async storage into this variable data. So await async storage dot get item by the name of @auth. If you remember, we have saved the response by the name of auth when we sign in and sign up. So we grab that, put in a variable data, Now once we get this data, we have to convert it into JavaScript object, because we saved it as a JSON using JSON stringify, right? Now to start using it as JavaScript object, we can put it in a variable. Let's call it async stories as JSON parse. We're going to pass the JSON object to JSON data to JavaScript, right? So JSON parse and give the data to this function. That will give us the objects in this variable. All right. Now set state, we can put it in a state. First we spread the state, whatever data we have in the state, we spread it out, and then we update. Now we update the user with the data we get from the async storage. So as.user and then token as.token. Alright, so that way we grab this value and then put in the state. Now we need to execute this function, otherwise nothing happens. So here let's execute using the parentheses. Alright, so use effect, all this code is here. So each time our application loads, this will get fired, and as a result we will get the user and token in the state. So that means we can start using context now. So all you have to do is export auth context and auth provider. So to start using this one, actually we have to do one more thing here. We have to return something, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap our entire application using auth provider, and that will provide these functions, state and then set state, to any other components. For example, those components will be accessible as children props. Okay, so you can do props and props.children, or even better, just destructure straight away children. All right, so you want to return the children component, which can be anything like sign in, sign up, any other page. We will wrap our application with auth provider. All right, so when you return, we're going to use auth context dot provider. So we get this access to this provider, so we return auth context provider, and here what do we want to provide? We want to provide the value that would be this one, state and set state. You can just copy this one. So this is the state, and to update the state, this is the function set state, right? So both of these, if we can pass as a value to any other components, that's all we want, right? So then this state will be global, accessible anywhere using the auth provider, and from any component you can easily access the state and update the state. So you pass the value like that, and then you return children component. All right, simple as that. That's our context. Now later we will come back and configure Axios as well, so that you don't have to send the token each time when you make a request. You can configure Axios so that it will be, the token will be sent in the headers globally. All right, so we'll come back to that. At the moment we have the context. Now we can start using it. So let's go to, where do you want to access this one? So at the moment, let's go to app.js, and we have the navigation here, right? So this is where you want to import the context provider and wrap everything in. So we import auth provider, destructure, auth provider from context, and then here all this stack navigator you wrap with auth provider. All right, simple as that. So once you do that, the value, the state and set state will be accessible to any other components. So you can give this a try. To try that, let's create a screen. Let's do that in the next lecture. Let's create a home screen and let's try accessing the state, the context, just so that we can see that everything is working.